Z-score and outliers. These are two measures in statistics. The Z-score tells how many standard deviations a number is from the mean or from the average. So a positive Z-score means that the number is above the mean, and a negative one means that it's below the mean. So let's say for this set of numbers, let's say I had 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. We'll just keep it simple. And I wanted to find the Z-score of 5. And that was my question. Find the Z-score of 5. Well, first I would need to find the mean and the standard deviation. Well, if I add these up, I get 8, 15, that's 20, so 35. So the mean would be 35. I have 5 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I divide by 5. And my mean is 7. And my formula for Z-score is this. It's going to be the value, in this case 5, minus the mean, and then divided by the standard deviation. So I have my mean, I can plug that number in. I would plug that in up here. I know my value is 5. I want to see how far that is from the mean. Well, I know it's going to be 5 minus 7. I just need to find the standard deviation. And I can do that in the calculator or by hand. I'll show you how to do it by hand. We're going to find out how much each of these values, the 3, the 5, the 7, the 9, and the 11, differ from the mean. So the mean is 5. So I'm just going to subtract 5 to each of these. Actually, the mean is 7. Just kidding. I'm going to subtract 7 to each of these first. And I get negative 4, negative 2, 0, 2, and 4. Next up, I'm going to square all these numbers. So negative 4 squared, and I treat that like it's in parentheses. So all these numbers are going to be positive. So negative 4 squared is 16. Negative 2 squared is 4. 0 squared is nothing. 2 squared is 4, and 4 squared is 16. And now I'm going to find the mean of these numbers. So I add them up. I get 20 plus 20. That's 20, that's 20. Plus 0 is 40. So the mean of those would be 40 divided by 5 numbers, which is 8. And then my last step is to take the square root. So the square root of 8 is going to be my standard deviation. And that basically is about 2.83. So that's my standard deviation. And now I have all I need to find the Z-score. I have my value, which is 5. I know my mean is 7. And I calculated my standard deviation is 2.83. So now I'm just going to plug those into my formula. And it would be 5 minus 7 over 2.83. I'm going to subtract first. I want to simplify the top and the bottom and then divide. So 5 minus 7 is negative 2 divided by 2.83. And I'm going to have a negative Z-score. This makes sense because my value, 5, is below the mean of 7. So it should be a negative Z-score. And I get it's about, I'll use my squiggly for about negative 0.71. Alright, so now that we understand Z-score, let's move on to outliers. I'm going to copy down that same list of data and we're going to see if there are any outliers. So 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. That's my set of numbers. And I am going to, first off, write down my formula for outliers. And it's simply the lower quartile minus 1.5 times the IQR. And it's also the upper quartile plus 1.5 times the IQR. And IQR is just the interquartile range. That's when you find the range of the two quartiles. So let's find our quartiles. Our median is 7. It's our middle number. And then I'm looking at the numbers left of the median. I don't include the median. Look at the ones left to it. I have 2 numbers. So the middle of that is my lower quartile. So halfway between 3 and 5 is 4. That's my lower quartile, or my Q1. And then look at my 9 and 11. I have 2 numbers right of the median. So the middle of those 2 would be 10. So 10 is my upper quartile, or my Q3. So the interquartile range is just subtracting those 2. So I just take the upper quartile, which is 10, subtract the lower quartile of 4. So the 10 minus the 4. And my interquartile range is 6. So now I can use my formula. So I'm trying to see if outliers, if anything, is 1.5 times the IQR below the lower quartile, or 1.5 times the IQR above the upper quartile. So let's plug those in, and I'm going to do lower quartile is 4, so 4 minus 1.5 times 6, and 1.5 times 6 is 9, so I just do 4 minus 9, which is negative 5. So I'm looking to see if there's anything that's negative 5 or less, and that would be an outlier in this direction. I don't have any numbers that are negative 5 or less, so I don't have any outliers in this data set on the lower extreme. Let's try it going the other way. Let's try to see if I have any big outliers, any large numbers. So there I would plug in for my upper quartile 10, and I would add 1.5 times the IQR, which is 1.5 times 6. And I know that's 9. So 10 plus 9 gives me 19. So I don't have any numbers that are 19 or greater. So I don't have any outliers, and I'm not surprised because these numbers were evenly spaced out. So it shouldn't be any surprise that we have no outliers. And that's how you calculate the outliers, to see if you have any really big numbers or really small numbers. And that sums up z-score and outliers.